So next thing I want to talk about is what can be improved, what needs to happen. So what should be done? Well, here's 4 fairly simple starts. So the Sask Arts Board, the Saskatchewan Arts Board, it should stay focused on art for art's sake. That is a wonderful mandate. That is an important mandate. It does it well, and it should keep doing that. No change necessary. It's doing what it should do. Sask culture, likewise. It should stay focused on in-province cultural supports for lived culture, for cultural experiences, creating that vibrant cultural scene. That's really necessary. It does a good job of it. It can stay doing that job. Doesn't need to change. Sask Tech, it's doing a great job. Like I said, it's a great example of a good model of representation for an industry. It needs to stay an independent voice for the tech community so that the tech community can properly lobby government. It can speak out when necessary. It can suggest and guide policy and inform policy as needed, and represent the tech community with integrity. Likewise, Sask game developers can still be represented with integrity if SaskGameDev stays an independent voice for the game dev community and keeps doing what it's doing, focused on mentorship, supports, events, etc., representing, building the game industry, hopefully with better support from government. It can stay independent, but again, still lobby government for changes, and hopefully we can get those. So those 4 don't need to do much. Innovation Sask. So again, here we have an organization with a $25 million a year budget and a mandate to support innovation. Well, it needs to, number 1, return to funding game development related events and programs. It's clearly within the mandate, it is clearly within their budget, and they've got a proven system to do it. So they helped fund the Global Game Jam Regina event 1 year. So it was a wonderful success. It was the most successful year of the Regina Global Game Jam site. Their support helped make it the best it's ever been. And the surprising thing is for most grants, normally it is not a pleasant process applying for grant money. But they actually have a great grant system. It's very open and flexible because it's about innovation. It needs to be open and flexible. You can't lock people into boxes, right? It was a wonderful process working with them. They have a great grant structure, a great application process. They have great people, but for some reason, they have gotten this toxic attitude of ignoring game development as a responsibility of SaskInteractive. SaskInteractive does not have a $25 million budget. In fact, it has a less than 1% sized budget in comparison. SaskInteractive can't do this. It is not a funder. That's not going to happen. We need to see game development as a fundamental part of innovation because it is. We wouldn't have the AI industry without how game development helped foster it. We wouldn't have multi-core processing if it weren't for game development pushing for that. We wouldn't have graphical processing units without the game industry. We wouldn't have all of the multi-threaded processing concepts that have grown out of that allow us to do vast, complicated 3D simulation work without game development. The BBC weather monitoring system would not exist without game development having made those mathematical processing systems available. There are countless examples. It's like the space industry, right? Like, why do we fund people going into space? Because it completely and utterly changes the world. We don't have that recognition for games, but it's absolutely true. Gaming has pushed technology in so many ways and has been so critical to the development of technology, hardware and software and processes and companies and funding. It's all there. It is so fundamental to innovation that to ignore game development is to hamstring this province's ability to succeed in innovation. It is a crime that Innovation Saskatchewan has chosen to ignore game development. It is a tragic, horrific mistake. It is a vile threat to the future of this province. It is absolutely at odds with their mandate. It is the wrong thing to do, and they should change that immediately. It is so vital that they do that. They have to reverse that. They have to get back to the table of supporting game development, of understanding its role. It is critical. Even with just the companies today, on the projects today, game development companies are going to absolutely open up an entire world of new possibilities in the innovation and tech space. Even just what we have today, let alone what could grow and happen if they get back to supporting it. I cannot stress how important it is that the role game development is going to play in the future of this province's tech scene. It's tragic. Just the loss of Cuphead is equivalent to 60% of the entire value of all of the tech companies in Saskatchewan. All other software companies in Saskatchewan. 60% of the value of everything happening currently in Saskatchewan in tech is equal to just Cuphead in 3 months. It is utterly irresponsible that they're not supporting game development. That is a tragic, horrific choice, and it absolutely has to be reversed. On a more pleasant note, Innovation Place. They have been, again, fantastic partners to work with. Anytime I need space, I know I can call up Innovation Place, and they are not just going to say yes, they are going to say yes enthusiastically and be excited to see things happening, and it is such a joy working with them. Now, the problem is, of course, that we need more than just the occasional event in their facilities. If they choose to see creative tech and game development as a potential tech cluster for development in Saskatchewan, we could see sea change. We would have a $40 million a year organization with 26 buildings going, we want to help see game development happen here. It would be an enormous change. So that's a big hope. They are the biggest player on that chart of people that could fund and support game development in Saskatchewan. They're at the top. And you know, if we really want to see a huge change and the greatest possible success, the cluster system works. We know that's a great way of doing it. You know, when a startup has to struggle on their own in a vacuum, it is so difficult for them. But when you can get startups together in things like an incubator, they reinforce each other. You know, that when you haven't been in business, it can be really weird because you think of businesses as always competing with each other. The reality is, actually, once you get into business, yes, there is some competition, but there is a lot of camaraderie and a lot of support for each other. You know, even, I used to have a restaurant. Even within the restaurant industry, if you think about how competitive it is, I mean, Regina is a really competitive market when it comes to restaurants. We have so many restaurants per capita. It is a very challenging market. But even then, we recognize, a Mexican place doesn't serve pizza. You want pizza. Sometimes you just want pizza. A Mexican place isn't going to serve you pizza. Likewise, if you really want tacos, you're not going to go to a pizza place. They compete, but they only compete so much. And even between those businesses, you support each other. Like, you have, I was going to say common enemies, but you have common problems. Are suppliers reliable? Thieves or vandals, like there's concerns that just go beyond whatever competition you have between you. And this is very true in tech. Often you're in areas that really can't compete with each other. When you're a personal alert alarm system, you don't really compete with a management logistics system for kombucha. Like you're not competing. You might have some challenge with maybe labor, getting the right hire, being able to snatch up the right young hot talent. You might compete on that, but you're not competing for customers, right? Those are just totally different markets. So bringing together startups and entrepreneurs, they reinforce each other. They help each other. What was your experience dealing with this? Can you recommend a service that does that? It's such a good system. So that's why incubators work. That's why tech clusters work, is it does create a community and a support system beyond what a lot of people outside of business would imagine it would be. It's far more cooperative than people think. So building a tech cluster around creative tech or game development could be such an amazing opportunity for Saskatchewan. And really, when you look at it, when we are decades behind in competitiveness with other provinces, we're going to need some moonshot projects to catch up. We can't just do what other provinces did. That's only going to make us grow at the rate they grew, and we never close that gap. We have to be able to do some crazy, ambitious moonshot projects that jump us forward in big ways, and a tech cluster on game development could be world leading. That could literally be world class, that we would get attention from every corner of the planet going, wow, look at what they're doing here. That's a potential. That's actually literally an option for us, doing something literally world class. We could go from nothing to being world class if we did something that ambitious. And that's actually completely viable to do here. So Innovation Place is really where I see the biggest change possible. Now, something else they could consider would be better support to get people into their system. They do wonderful supportive things for the people that are tenants of the Innovation Place campuses. They have a lot of support. The question really to me is, if they want to be viable long term, isn't just supporting the people that are there, but it's how do you get new people in? And that's really what's missing, particularly in creative tech. But it's generally a challenge with any business. Generating new business, new customers, new clientele. Where's that wide funnel approach at Innovation Place? I haven't seen that. They're wonderful and amazing at supporting the people that are there, but how do you get people in the door? That's been a little more of a challenge. CoLabs up in Saskatoon has done great things. Cultivator down here in Regina has done good things. Cultivator's now left Innovation Place Regina, so it's probably time to do something new, and they could do really powerful and amazing things if they were willing to be so bold. That would be nice. Now, of course, Creative Sask is really the biggest part of support for the creative tech scene. What they could do, what they should do. Personally, I think they need to understand game development more. That is a big problem here. We've seen their previous programs. Their equity fund is so badly suited to the industry. It was literally newsworthy, front page news on the leader post, how bad this program is, because they don't understand digital media. That's not a surprise. I mean, when we don't have the industry, how do you know it, right? So it's some stumbling there out of the blocks because we don't know the territory, right? Creative Sask needs to better understand the industry, and unfortunately, because they've relied on SaskInteractive, and SaskInteractive has been so badly dissociated with creative tech, and so poorly staffed in terms of understanding game development at that fundamental level, it has not been able to provide adequate insight and guidance for Creative Saskatchewan. If Creative Saskatchewan really wants to understand game development, they need to work with SaskGameDev. They need a white paper on the industry. How can this industry grow? That's what they need. They really need to understand the industry better. They need to work with a partner like SaskGameDev, which is the largest representative for the game development industry in the province, and that's going to allow them to develop programs with some understanding of the industry. It's going to allow industry to help actually shape their programs, which has been horribly lacking so far and has led to a lot of missed opportunities. Bad programs don't just waste our time, they cost us in people and opportunities as those people leave because the system is so bad here. We need that change to happen. Now, another big, really important thing is SaskInteractive. A lot of their problems have come from their board not understanding how to operate as a board. A lot of first-time board members and not a lot of policies and procedures put in place that guide it in a correct, healthy, functioning, ethical manner. Without an improvement to the board governance, SaskInteractive is going to keep having troubles. If the board don't know how to do things, how to handle them correctly, it's going to keep stumbling. And the best way we can correct that is something that should frankly be standard operating procedure for all of the CIAs, is board training. Train the board members how to be a board. People don't know that. It's not common knowledge, but what are the correct procedures? What are your legal liabilities? What needs to happen? What could happen? How do you make that happen? Those things need to be explained to people. Without proper board training, boards don't work right. And when boards don't work right, problems happen. Deep, painful problems happen. We need to stop that from happening by making board training a standard feature across everything we possibly can. That should just be a part of our provincial culture, is training people to be on boards. So many boards never get that training. They don't understand the procedures. They don't understand the responsibilities. it only ever causes problems. And you know, this was something that I really liked seeing in Ontario, was board training was common. That was normal. That was easily accessed. There were lots of supports for it, and it did wonderful things. When you have good board training, you have good boards, and when you have good boards, you have good organizations. Board training for SaskInteractive has to be the #1 priority to fix this mess of where we're at right now. Now, the only programming right now that Creative Saskatchewan offers for game developers in terms of financial assistance is their equity fund. It is literally so bad it was front page news. It needs to die. No ifs, ands, or buts. It's not a question of modifying it, tweaking it. It just needs to die. It needs to go away immediately, without question. It is so bad, it is not worth trying to save. It is so fundamentally wrong. It is wrong on every clause of that project. It needs to go. It is horrific. It is caused probably... It is so badly designed. I am certain it causes more problems than benefit, even though it's spending, you know, $200,000, $250,000. It is so egregiously bad. It will hurt those that took them up on that deal. It is a tragic program. Now, that said, there are plenty of options for funding game development that are wonderfully positive. Virtually anything else would be an improvement. If they have the money to put into game development, put the money into game development. Don't do some stupid equity program that causes horrific problems for companies, that takes away all of their money and leaves them with no possibility of growing. I mean, if the mission is to grow companies, let's see funding that actually focuses on growing companies, not steal all the money it can out of the companies that it funds. We just need grants. It's just that simple. Choose whatever amount of money, offer it as a grant, and there you go. Like, it's that simple. You know, if you're worried about how financially stable this program will be, then don't hand out as much money. But the money you hand out as grants. Every other sector gets grants. Books get grants. Theater professionals get grants. Music gets grants. Motion pictures get grants. Everybody else gets grants, but interactive digital media. Why is that? Interactive digital media is the one industry we don't have. It needs the most help. Why would you put punishing equity programs that take profit out of the companies when it's the industry we desperately need to grow? None of this makes any sense. If we want to support this, if we want to grow it, which is literally what you're supposed to be about by law, to grow this industry, dear God, try and build a program that's going to grow a company, not squeeze every drop of blood it can out of them. It's not hard. Work with the community, and you can build a grant program that will help people. There are lots of different models you could use. Massive Corporation funded the Massive Sacks of Cash grant as an exact guide for something you could do immediately. You can just copy and paste that document to create a grant program. Massive will be fine with that. I will not charge you for copying me. It is not copywritten. You can just take that grant program and run it. You have the pockets to do that. We need support. We desperately need support for this industry. Work with the industry, work with some of the creators, and let's get an actual positive program happening. You're there to provide financial assistance. Let's see some of that happening. Now, the other big thing is, of course, one of those key features in the foundational documents, the promotion and marketing of our cultural products. I'm not seeing nearly enough of that out of Creative Saskatchewan. When somebody makes a cultural product in Saskatchewan that's aiming for commercial success, Creative Saskatchewan should be gunning for it. Run with it. Do whatever you can. It doesn't matter who or how they are. That's your purpose. Promote and market cultural product. Let's see that happen. Let's see Creative Sask put the effort in. Not just handing people money to do their own marketing. No, let's see Creative Saskatchewan go out of its way to do that, to help it happen, to make it happen. That's what's needed. It's one thing to, have the creators doing that work. That's important that they do that. They need to do that. But having another partner, having more brains in the room, having another person acting to do that stuff is so important. And, it's just like tourism, right? We have a tourism bureau. It shows whoever does tourism, they're willing to help and support anybody. This Saskatchewan Wanderer goes and finds businesses and goes, you should go here. And that's how tourism works. Right? Oh, there's a place to go. Okay, we can go. Why isn't Creative Sask doing the same thing? Oh, check out, here's this creator, buy their stuff. They've done tiny little things. When COVID struck, there was this little moment where they went, hey, suggest stuff that we can promote. And it happened for a couple weeks in the tiniest possible way, but that needs to be a foundational practice. That's literally like enshrined in law. That's I think number 3. It's the third or fourth thing you need to do as Creative Saskatchewan. Promote stuff. That's key. Just doesn't matter what it is. Give it some help. Retweet some stuff. Throw it on your website. It doesn't matter what their membership is or whatever. Are they a creator in Saskatchewan? Then it's your mandate to help them. That's as simple as it is. So we need to see way more in terms of pushing promotion and marketing of Saskatchewan product. Not just, here's a grant people can apply for. No, this needs to be an active policy of Creative Saskatchewan. It needs to be active in promoting and marketing these materials. And it's not hard to do in the social media age. So that's Creative Saskatchewan. Under them is, of course, SaskInteractive. What do they need to do? One big problem with SaskInteractive is it has a CEO, ED, Executive Director, Chief Operator of the business. It has someone in place that has never worked in creative tech. If this is the default organization to, we covered representing. Representing isn't the right word, but is responsible for informing the government and for supporting that subsector. How can it possibly do its job with someone with zero experience in that subsector? They can never talk with experience and understanding about the subsector. It's ludicrous. It boggles the mind that the organization could be led by somebody without any experience in that subsector. Would Sask Music ever be run by someone who never worked in music? It's bizarre. And it shows how poorly SaskInteractive has been run, that isn't raising questions, that SaskInteractive is so disconnected from what its purpose is, what its mandate is, that it didn't even recognize creative tech. I mean, what can you say about that? It is literally the subsector representative for creative tech, for interactive digital media, and it's run by someone who doesn't have any experience in creative tech or interactive digital media. Am I going crazy? Like, you would put someone with no knowledge into that position to be responsible for it? It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And so this comes to the fact that SaskInteractive does not recognize its mandate. It has no idea what it is, what it's for, why it's doing it, what it should do, how it should do it. It has no idea about any of that. And it's caused tremendous pain over the last 8 years of its existence as a CIA under Creative Saskatchewan. SaskInteractive can never do a good thing until it recognizes its mandate and until it has somebody leading it that has a clue about what it's supposed to be doing. It can't move forward. It can't do good without that. It's just baffling. How does that happen? So this is largely in part because the board has never been trained. And again, so reinforcing, the Creative Sask goal here is providing SaskInteractive board training. SaskInteractive's major need here is getting that board training. If they start recognizing their duty, if they start recognizing their mandate, they will clearly see that they need a new leader. They will change the board's operation. They will change the officer. And then you have virtually a completely new organization, and it can actually move forward because it's done nothing useful since it was switched to Creative Sask. And I can't imagine it doing much positive until it has a new leader and the board knows how to function correctly so that we can correct all of the problems that SaskInteractive have had. And I do not have enough bullet points in this presentation to describe all of the problems there. But those few changes, we can actually address the problems and move forward in a positive way. Now, importantly, as we covered with those representation slides, SaskInteractive cannot directly represent the industry. That can't be its job. It is a government organization. It cannot lobby the government on behalf of the industry. It's the government. So it can't do that. What it needs to do is connect with the industry, and it needs to take industry feedback, but it needs to ensure that the industry does have its independent voice and it respects that independent voice. So, like I said at the bottom here, amplifying voices is its key approach. That's what it needs to do. It needs to be able to hear the industry and talk to government, because the government expects SaskInteractive to answer questions about game development. It needs to actually connect with the game developers to be able to provide those answers. It needs to be able to listen to game developers and pass on what they say. In that way, it can be a tool of feedback between government and industry, going both ways, that can allow difficult conversations to happen if they are needed. If it's simply amplifying voices and it understands that as its fundamental purpose, it can take criticism from the community and go, gee, you need to change that equity program. When it's when it thinks it's representing the industry, but its funding is entirely from Creative Saskatchewan, it will never adequately defend the industry from failed programs. If it takes up the job of being the messenger, of amplifying voices, of ensuring industry hears from government and government hears from industry, then it can do a really good thing. Now, it also has to provide support for the industry. It doesn't provide grants. That's Creative Saskatchewan's job, but it can provide marketing and commercialization support. And again, this is something that really needs to happen more of. When there are products out there in the market, when there are companies out there in the market, they need to be promoted. That's a fundamental need declared by the Act. And as the Creative Saskatchewan Act, SaskInteractive is a paid partner for Creative Saskatchewan. It needs to do that for the interactive digital media scene. It needs to find those projects and promote them. And it needs to do it not just expecting the creators to do all the work. It shouldn't just be there to say, hey, go get a marketing grant. It should actively do that. That's what the law says, to market and promote. It doesn't say to help pay for people. It doesn't say just to finance it. It says to help market and promote. It's an active duty of these organizations to help market and promote those things. When you hear the board members say they don't know who's releasing what, when the organization doesn't know or pay attention to those small details on the ground, that's a big problem. That's its job. Understand this market, understand what's being produced. Its job is there to support the cultural products and the producers to help them commercially succeed. You need to understand what cultural products and producers there are. You need to know what they're doing. You need to know they exist and promote them. That's the job. That's what you're paid for. You have to do that. So let's see more active responsibility in promoting and marketing the products and people of this industry in the province. By doing this, you will improve the environment. When you can be that voice of amplifying voices, you're going to have the information that needs to get to the industry from government. You're going to have information from industry that needs to get to government. You can create those connections. You can create the environment where people are actually talking. You can stimulate those conversations and opportunities and innovation. So, switching over these systems and reimagining SaskInteractive through the lens of what the actual statutes of Saskatchewan say is key here. Assisting and supporting the promotion of marketing of products and industry is fundamental. That should be a daily thing over there at SaskInteractive. Wake up in the day, who are you helping? That should just be a natural act of SaskInteractive. Who are we helping? What are we promoting? It's never really happened. It should be fundamental. They should be assisting in the design and improvement of Creative Saskatchewan programs. If they knew the industry, they would be able to do that. If they connected with the industry, they'd be able to do that. That's never existed, and so they haven't. And unfortunately, that's meant terrible programs from Creative Saskatchewan that never should have saw the light of day if anyone involved in the industry had ever been a part of that conversation. So hopefully we can see that improve. Recognizing the subsector's role in the economy and culture. Yeah, promote game dev in Saskatchewan. It's pretty easy to sell. People are excited about it happening. as the person that's done most of that, I can tell you, it's a fun job. It's a really fun job to have. Telling people that, yeah, game dev is happening here. Cool, check out this video game. That's a fantastic job. Everybody loves it. But again, all of these bullet points are basically just rephrasing from the Creative Saskatchewan Act. Those are the goals, and they're actually fun to do. So maybe stop ignoring them, focus on those, and you can actually have fun doing this. Encouraging cooperation in events to grow the subsector. Do more than $500 of funding. Let's get over that hump. Let's get you back to where there's enough success in this sector that Creative Saskatchewan isn't cutting your funding and have turned what was at one point $90,000 of program funding is now negative $18,000 of programming funding. Let's show some actual successes in funding and working with people to put on some events, and your budget will probably look better because the government is going to see it's actually worth giving SaskInteractive money. When there's nothing but failure, what's to show for funding SaskInteractive at this point? Nothing. So let's see some of these positive actions be done, and SaskInteractive will have a bright future if it actually works towards what its mandate is. If it starts acting ethically and responsibility through improved leadership and improved board governance, it can do so many good things, and those things are desperately needed. There's a lot that can be done. Now, speaking of what can be done, SaskGameDev, since we are the largest tech community in Saskatchewan, we are dedicated to game development as one of the most fundamental, largest, most profitable core of interactive development, of interactive digital media. Game development is the biggest possible part of that by orders of magnitude. As the experts in that, as the largest community of that, we are willing to write white papers on how to build the sector, support creators, support businesses, develop the talent pool, market products, market companies, increase the awareness of the subsector for industry-advised policy development. We can do that. That's what we do. I mean, every day I do most of those things. I connect with creators. I support them. I help promote them. I help promote their projects. I help train people, give people ideas on how to improve their skill set, give them leads on jobs. I do these things every single day. And if you need to know how to do them, I'm here, Let me write a white paper to guide government policy. Not just, hey, can you suggest something? No, let's put it on paper so that it can be referred to as people change, as the boards change. Boards always change. If you build a white paper that can act as a guide for decades, here is the best practices. This is what's important to know. White papers really are key to sector development. Having a white paper that defines the potential, defines some processes, identifies partners, identifies problems, that's what white papers do, right? And if we develop some white papers about interactive digital media, about game development, about creative tech, we will have an asset that will pay for itself so many times over and what that can do. But it does take a lot to develop those. Those are large, well thought out, well researched pieces. You don't just pull those out of thin air. That's a serious effort, but it is a serious effort that could absolutely change the course of the tech sector in Saskatchewan. It's really important, and important to recognize there are 4 different organizations that could potentially pay for such things. Creative Saskatchewan, SaskInteractive, Innovation Sask, and Innovation Place. It's all within all of their mandates to do this. They can share the responsibility, they can split it up, one person can just do it, whatever it is. Let's get some white papers in front of us that can actually guide this process in a large, strategic, comprehensive way. This talk, these series of videos, are an important start on that, but they're not the only thing. There needs to be a well-documented case of how to proceed, and some of the details and threats and opportunities and whatnot to make those things happen. This is so valuable and could be such a good thing for Saskatchewan. It needs to happen. Lastly, the most ambitious thing, this is the thing that I have always dreamed of. This is what I've wanted to do by moving back to Saskatchewan, is a creative tech, let's face it, a game development, specifically incubator. It would help grow this industry. We desperately need this industry. There are a lot of people interested in this industry, but there is not the support network required to make it happen. People are struggling to make things happen. They don't have the support. Looking at that Innovation Place style tech cluster, an incubator as the heart of this to make it happen, to grow this completely new industry sector for Saskatchewan, could be one of the most powerful and important things we could do for this province in terms of innovating, in terms of reinforcing a innovation culture, in changing making a thriving society here that people want to be a part of, right? This could be a world-class thing. There are very few game incubators in the world. I am willing and able to do it if I could find funders. I need partners to make this happen, but if I can, this could absolutely change the trajectory of Saskatchewan in an amazing way. Right now, the game industry globally is worth an estimated $120 billion. It's expected to more than double over the next 10 years. That means there is more than $120 billion of economic growth just waiting to happen. Do we want more than 0 of that to happen here? It would be nice, but it's not going to happen unless we actually invest in making it happen. There are huge opportunities, but we do need to invest to make them actually happen. So if a funding partner could come forward, one or multiple funding partners, Innovation Sask, Western Economic Diversification, Innovation Place, Creative Saskatchewan, Innovation SaskInteractive, they're all potential funding partners. Now, admittedly, Innovation Place, Western Economic Diversification, they're the ones with the actual money behind them. But if any or all of them could come together, this thing could happen. It would need a facility partner. Innovation Place is the obvious place to do it. Let's reinforce Innovation Place and throw in a new tech cluster to build it up. Amazing things could happen there. They've got amazing facilities. Let's make it happen. Now, the other important thing is, again, that incubator would still maintain some separation from government so that it could be more industry aligned. That's a really important thing. So again, having multiple funding partners, particularly if they're both federal and provincial, would make a lot of sense on helping give the organization political separation from government by having different governments involved. That really helps create independence. So hopefully that would be possible. But the incubator would almost certainly operate, as its own thing. It wouldn't be SaskGameDev, it would be its own thing. But the change it could make would just be tremendous. And we have multiple companies here that could easily be million-dollar companies in the near future if we had the right environment for them to grow and we had the right supports here to allow them to hit those marks and achieve that growth. So hopefully these talks have helped define what's needed, that there is a lot of potential, that there are a lot of problems right now, but they are solvable problems. We can adjust these organizations, get them headed in the right direction. And if we do, I mean, the potential here is incredible, is absolutely incredible. There are multiple companies that could be million-dollar companies in very short order if they could get the right support. And that means dozens of jobs. And in time, it means hundreds of jobs. And these are very lucrative companies, potentially. Game development, $120 billion a year. We could have significant amounts of money being generated in our game industry here if we supported it the right way. The payout could be enormous. And importantly also, beyond just the payout directly, the spin-offs of game development are not understood here, but they are tremendous. They're absolutely tremendous what they can do. So the need for this is huge. The opportunities are huge, but we do need a lot. There are many agencies at the table here. We do need them to change direction, to reconsider some things. And if they do, the future is bright for Saskatchewan. We deserve this. Our youth deserve a better future. They deserve these opportunities. And we need to do what we can to allow these opportunities to exist in Saskatchewan. So hopefully this has helped. I'm losing my voice, so that's it for today. But there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of conversations to be had. Connect with us. SaskGameDev is, the organization for game development in Saskatchewan. Contact us. Check out our website. There's a contact form there. Check us out on Twitter at SaskGameDev. Connect with us. Reach out. Let us know what you're thinking. If you're a game dev in Saskatchewan, we're here to support you. If you're in government and you want to help game development happen in Saskatchewan, contact us. We desperately want to work with you. Let's give Saskatchewan the bright future it deserves. So thanks so much for listening, and I'm going to go not talk for a long while. Take care, everybody.